Good morning, beautiful people, beautiful souls. I want to go over this book here because it is a very, very good, not introduction. It goes in, it's not a lot of pages that explain some things, but what the explanation is here, even though it's only maybe 30 pages, it's in French, English, and Spanish. So 3 in 1. This is Milo Regal. I think that's how I pronounce. That's how we pronounce his name. He was a very highly educated person that studied Voodo, Haitian Voodo, for many years. For all his life, he was always interested in it, and he has another book that I'm going to be doing a book review later. But this one, I don't want to do like a book review, like I want to go over quote by quote, so to ensure that the full essence of what he's saying is through this video, because it's powerful information that when a lot of people understand this, they can see why Voodo is it's not just magic. It's more than that. It's sacred geometry. It's sacred wisdom that has been passed down from generation to generation from the beginning of history. So I want to do it justice because it is a powerful information that we have here. And you're not going to find a lot of books like this that explain the quantum physics side of things, the metaphysics side of things, so that we can understand that the magic that a lot of people think is just magic, conjuring things out of nowhere, actually comes from other star systems. And he goes into that here. And I'm so happy that I found this book. I think I got this book, I don't remember when I got this book, but I think it was last year, late last year. And honestly, it's exactly what is here. I found it here, like to the point where I'm like in disbelief that I found someone that is actually has evidence of things that I have seen when I'm going to the quantum field to pull information about the histories of things, how things work within Voodo, and things that normally we wouldn't question because it's supposed to be mystical. So to find a book like this last year was very, very, it was like, oh my goodness, thank God I'm not crazy, because I really didn't think anyone was understanding what I was seeing, what I was experiencing. And to find this book last year, it really helped me feel reassured that I wasn't making things up, that I was actually tapping into information that most people don't really know or understand. And to find a book that actually explains some of these things that I have seen and that I have come to understand is actually very, it feels amazing, to be honest. It feels amazing. So the book is Bebe, B-E-B-E-B-E, so B-E-B-E, and it is the rituals of Voodo diagrams, so the sigils. So in this book, he has many different bebes here, sigils, in order for us to reach different spirit guides. So most of it is the bebes, because that's the book. I got it because I wanted to learn some of the ones that I didn't really know from the Haitian side of the island, and even like Baron Samedi and Grambois and Ursulifera and so many others. So he has a lot of them here. The only thing is that he doesn't really have a lot of explanation for what they are. So you have to put it together yourself, because at the beginning he gives you like a cheat sheet, and then you have to go sigil by sigil to put them together. So once you have the cheat sheet, and not everything is here, but the bebes are here, so you can put them together and understand what you're doing. For example, papalic bag, one of the papalic bags, you know, we know that there are different lead bags. Lead bag is a division, so within the lead bag division, there are different type of lead bags. So you see lead bag at the bone, lead bag, you see lead bag, carrefour, and different ones. So everyone has a different point, a different energy that they're opening, a portal that is being opened to bring specific energies with the sons and the sigils, the bebés, and the prayers, the incantation that are being done. So I'm just going to, like I said, it's about 30 pages. Let me just make sure that I give you that right. It's from, the English one is from page 67 to page 134. So about, I don't know, let's say 50 pages in total, 50 to 60 pages of description of different spirits, different energies, the symbolism of what they represent in terms of the sigils, what different things represent. Let me give you an example. He starts with the explanation that the bebés are basically sacred geometry to be able to communicate with different astral entities that are throughout the cosmos, because all of these entities come from different point of existence, and they still exist in those different places. So to call them, we open up the portal in order for them to come through with the prayers, the sigils, the incantations, and so on, the dances, the singing. One of the things that he says that the bebés are a modification of the astral light, the fluid of the earth, and they rest there by the spoken wish of the officiator, who guide them by will and dispose of them in the same manner. This fluid is the great magic agent, the magic chain or the elm. The control that the performer has over the terrestrial fluid is expressed by this sign, the star. He talks about the little star here. That's his basically the beginning of the English version. He has the same thing in Spanish and French. So if you could speak Spanish or French, you might also enjoy this to read. It's the same translation. In the preface, he talks about the diagrams, the bebés, the sigils, how they're magic, and how they belong to the Voodo tradition, commonly known as Voodo, V-O-D-O-U, which is an example to the solar tradition of the great invisibles of Ethiopia. So he's linking, and this is what I love, he's linking the origins of Voodo to not only some places like Nigeria and Ethiopia, but also the Egyptian, and how some of these things are the same, just with a different name. So he says the rituals diagrams are also magic. They all belong to the Voodo tradition, commonly known as Voodoo, to an example to the solar tradition of the great invisibles of Ethiopia. Their name is Voodoo, bebé, or ceremony. These are, as a matter of fact, condensers of astral forces and ritual attractors of planetary powers, to which they are mysteriously bound by a geometrical occult chain, from which writing and language, architecture, and cybernetics were born. So this, I'm telling you, this guy really is something else, because some of the things that I have seen when I go through quantum to trance to pull information, it blows my mind, and I don't even know how to explain it because I don't have the quantum physics background. So to me, it makes sense in my head, but it's very hard to explain it. So I really do have to work on that. I have to study more quantum physics, I guess. Well, anyways, but this Milo Regal is on point, man. I'm telling you, he's on point. he knows exactly what he's talking about. Then he goes into explaining other things under the diversified aspects of the hexagram. These diagrams bring forth during the ceremonies the lua, or spirit, for which they serve as geometrical attributes. This is why, with some power or flower of different qualities and colors conforming to the powers of the lua Voodo, and even with chalk, the priests of the occult trace these diagrams on the ground of the amphor, the amphor, and the amphor is the center of the what do you call this, where the ceremony is being held. In Spanish we call it la terraza, but you know, it's where the ceremony is being done. So the amphor is the stick that holds this power, right? So the amphor the priests of the occult trace these diagrams on the ground of the amphor and on the ritual. So the potomitan is in the center, the amphor is the square or whatever, however shape you have. Most of the times, so a lot of people have it as a rectangle type of place. So the amphor and the potomita, which is in the center. So the priests of the cult trace these diagrams on the ground of the amphor, where the ceremony is being done, and on the ritual objects before and during the service, with the intent to carry favor of the forces of the astral causes. However, mostly the bebe is traced around the ritualistic assets, which is the potomitan, the central pole, whose role is unveiled in the following analysis. So he goes forward to explain how the potomitan, the center pole. So we have, let me just make sure that I explain this to you properly. The amphor, let's say the terraza, how do you call this in English? The where, you know, normally it's outside in a place where it's like I don't know, like a tiki bar, but it's not a tiki bar, of course. But there is this rectangle shape or square, however it is, and this is the amphor, and then the center pole is the potomitan. So the bebes are normally done within here, so that it makes sure. Sometimes it's done in front of the table where the luas are portrayed in some form, and sometimes it is in the center of the potomitan where these things are done, the bebes, the diagrams. So he explains that. I just want to finish this. To give an accurate general idea of the potential value of the bebe in astrology, alphabet, ritual, religion, and magic, we're choosing this type pattern to explain it according to the less debatable standard of the universal tradition, so as to make it possible to appreciate others and perhaps to understand them through the same Kabbalistic procedure or interpretation. So he explains a lot of things and giving an example from the Kabbalistic or, the Kabbalistic side of things. Sometimes he uses Egyptian deities to explain who is who, so people can understand more, because obviously this is to educate people that are not necessarily in Voodo. So, but if you're into Voodo, the occult, you will truly appreciate the work that he has done with this book. It is a little, it's not expensive. Honestly, when I got it, it was, I thought it was more than $100, but I just checked a couple of days ago and it was like $56. So it's a huge, a great investment if you can buy this book and have it as a reference, because it truly gives you a wider perspective, a more respectful way to see it if you're questioning some things, and also allows you to expand your mind by understanding that this is really, we're talking about communication with other astral beings. And when we understand that, and the reason why I've been dealing with this for many years is because I have received a lot of information from light beings talking to me about the fact that these energies, these luas, these orishas, these spirit guides that I think are just that, they were coming to explain to me that is way more than that, and they were giving me information so that that's how I started the journey with quantum healing, because it was making sense that we were communicating, that I was communicating not just with the spirit human form when they were here, but that these entities are also throughout the cosmos, and they can come when we open up the portals. So to get this book was it was a huge reinforcement for me, because it's exactly what I have been experiencing. Anyways, I'm sorry about that, the ambulance is going by. He explains about Damballah, Voodo. He talks about Aisan. He talks about the different energies. He explained why. He takes a good time explaining Damballah, Voodo, and Aida, Voodo sigil, the diagram, because that is the beginning of everything, according to him. And you know, I'll give you an example. For example, he talks about the wands. He talks about how the origins of it, the cylinder, which is the esoteric lake of the Kabbal. It represents the element which creates and is created from the water of this lake. So the cylinder in the Damballah, it is the water element, and it represents the lake. Then he talks about the two serpents saluting each other, saluting the wand, saluting the sun, the concession, the primordial nebula. And he talks about how, let me just read this for you. These serpents are identifiable with the very actions of this reign. These reptiles represent they represent love, androgyny, Gemellia parity, harmony, dualism, concession, medicine, under the planetary sign of Mercury. So they represent love, androgyny, Gemelli, I don't even know what that is. I'm going to have to look that up. Gemelli parity, Gemilliparity. Dualism, concession, harmony, medicine, under the planetary sign of Mercury. Population or quantity, witchcraft, wisdom, knowledge, initiation, the magical phenomenon, transcendence, transfiguration, and glorification. So he's talking about that all of this is represented by the stars and represented by the energy of the snake, and that's why we have the two snakes with the Damballah and Aida, Voodo sigil. So he's talking about the snakes being all of this: wisdom, initiation, knowledge, witchcraft, quantity, population, medicine, concession, dualism, transfiguration, glorification, transcendence, clairaudience, and clairvoyance. In other terminology, they are on the baton as a symbol of judicial astronomy, and they represent the Hermetic twins or the Maracá Voodoos. And we all know about the Maracá. Sometimes we know them as the Maracá. So the left button with the snake represents the sun, the masculine element, the fire, the air, the sky, the waters from above. The moon on the right side with the button and the snake facing the sun represents the moon, the feminine element, the air, the void, the earth, and the waters from beneath. Where the wands represents the word, W-O-R-D, or the creator, the snakes are the drainage or the triangular levitation of the cosmic water, the ritualistic levitation of the Hermetic lake, the birthplace of all the plights of the being imagined by the gods and their succedanea, humans, animal, vegetable, minerals. The magic wand is divided into two to divide the serpent in Damballah, Voodo, or Adam and Aida, Voodo, Eve, and thus to depict harmoniously or cosmically the separation of the waters, the sky, and the earth. The cylinder on the bebe represents corresponds to the Hebrew Shin, S-H-I-N, and the Egyptian. And then he gives us a little glyph there, where the snake corresponds to the letter T, Tsede, T-C-A-D-E, and lame, L-A-M-E-D. Infinity, eternity, the birth of ever. In Voodo, the Shin, S-H-I-N, is the reservoir of Damballah, his lake. The Voodo spirit Damballah Wedo represents the Sondil of creation. Wedo, Wido, Wedo, Wedson, do diagrams, or Wedo, incarnate, materialize, or the passing of the science of good and evil. The Mercury or Hermes symbolized by the Caduceus. Mercury Hermes is the secret Simbi of the Pantheon Voodo, which is the Simeon of the Hebrew Kabbalah. This transmission is bypassing of the Kabbalah, the teachings of tradition. It is evident that the lines twice double, which separates the basins at the biological course of the sun. There appears to be the two routes, going all the night and returning to the day. This double route, twin road, is the Grand Shemin Boroi of Voodo, called the Shemin Papa Lekba, or Beriere Leba. This is how Lebak is the Egyptian Anubis, the secret which opens the road and whose attribute is the clock, sign of the road of the time. So he's saying that Papa Lekba is also what people know in the Egyptian pantheon as Anubis. So this is how Lebak is the Egyptian Anubis, the secret which opens the road and whose attributes is the clock, sign of the road over the time. The zigzag version that the serpents make indicates the being, in parentheses souls, while the ternary manifestation of the soul, the solar element, is represented by the one. The unborn being in the basin from which they emerge, and this being is the arithmetical sign, a minus. So you see a minus there. It rises after summoning its movement. Here is the face of his elevation. So let me just show you this so you guys can see. So he's just basically describing this sigil here, this bebe. And he's explaining little by little what it means. And then he talks about the egg, the cosmic egg, the Egyptian, how it's also shown by the cosmic egg. He's talking about why in the Egyptian ritual the ideographic sign of the individual life is a chick. And then he gives us more information about the lake, the cosmic lake, the egg, waters for above, water for below. And then he goes into Ersuli being the reflection, the cess of the cosmic. Hold on, I don't remember reading this. The sign is just as Ersuli, Tucan, the moon possessed by the sun. She's personalized iconographically by the Virgin and the Funet signs by the formula Tau, woman in a boat or in the Shin, whose meaning is Twa, Ta equals the earth, planet, and W equals the Omega or the Shin. Remember before he talked about the Shin being, he talked about the Shin and the Egyptian, where the snake corresponds to the letter Tsade. He's just basically here uniting that with the fact that this represents the supernatural breath of the spirit, whose symbol will be the sail of Ersulit's boat in which Lebak crosses the reservoir of Damballah. In Haitian Voodo, a lot of the temples have a boat floating, and that represents the moon, Ersulifreda. So he's talking about how the boat is used for Papa Lebak to traverse the lake. So everything has its meaning. He explains other things here about the high priest, the ashes of the bebe as Jupiter thunder, the fire of heaven. Lebak, the sage, symbolizes science as the second person in the Holy Trinity. And then he goes into, let me just read this for you. He gives a lot of information from other, how it might be similar to other cultures. So he talks about in this work, the magic origins of royalty. The Saint Arthur mentions also that in the very distant times, the Roman king, as Jupiter representative, naturally filled the role of the divine. So he's talking about how the priest and priestess are equal to the Pope or something like that, because they have powerful information, but the only difference is that these people are truly learning to tap into astral energies, where the Pope has secrets that we don't know. Same thing that the priest and priestess have secrets that most people don't know. So he's talking about the many different things here about the supremacy of the divine right and Papa Lebak, and this is the reason why in the practice of Voodoo occult, the Hugang or Voodoo high priest, or the Mambo or Voodoo high priestess, officiate within a zone. So he's talking about the Azon lineage, which I think we talked about briefly in another video with the Haitian Voodoo. And the Bebe representing drums and other musical instruments of the occult, such as Ogang and the triangle, conclude the tradition of the cross, which is the same as the skeleton of the Bebe relates to the bones of the figures, because the drums as the stems of the tree occult, the polarized wood, the cosmic wood, the righteous wood, the wood of justice, the harmonious wood, giving thanks to earth through all the celestial powers of the fire, married to the water under respected figures of Lebak and Ursuli. Water married to fire as it germinates the grain under the aspect of the Maracá diagram. The Marasal diagram acquires all the atmosphere power represented by the sacred music, whose symbol on the Azon is the pearls of the beast, or the beads. Thus, the ritual sounds of the Voodoo instruments conform in planetary character to the Bebe or Ursuli, fertility and music deified in Venus by the heart. In the Cabal, the cross or polarized tree represents the rule of waters, explained by its use, the analogy between the jagged sabre of Laplace and the lightning of Jupiter thunder, spirit on which depends on the flow of the water, personified by Ursuli and a gouge. The jagged sea used by Isis as a hat, the Nile personized and deified, in parentheses, is an image of one. So just to make sure that I say this properly. So in the Cabal, the cross or polarized tree represents the rule of waters, explained by its use, the analogy between the jagged sabre of Laplace and the lightning of Jupiter thunder. Then he goes on to making the correlation between Egypt. So he says, the jagged seed used by Isis as a hat, in parentheses, the Nile personified and deified, close parenthesis, is an image of one. So he's talking about how we see the same thing in different cultures. Anyway, so he goes forward. I'm going to continue. One of the things that I want to share with you is about some of the spirits that a lot of people don't know about. No, I think I also want to... He goes into explaining the machete or the sabre of the Ogu, iron of the philosopher. And then he has a little symbol that explains that. The cross binded by the upright train is the mercurial water of the Magnus. And then he goes into The the regular cross is gold, philosophic gold or acid. The hexagram is mercurial principle of distillation in the alluder. The triangle is water or principle of the philosophy of Mercury. The reverse triangle is water. The upright triangle is the bottle principle. The circle is alum or principle of the salt of the philosophers in the mineral group. The cross circumscribed by the circle is the Trismegistus. We all know who that is. Or bronze of Trismegistus. The circle counterbalanced by the point is the gold principle of wisdom. So he gives you this description here, like a little dictionary, so that when you get to start playing with the bebes, that you know what different things mean. So for example, if you see here the two snakes, you know what it is. And then you see above, it has Damballah, Voodo, it has the different 6-pointed star, and it has 3, and then it has a circle like a medicine wheel. So you have to put it together based on the little thing that he gave you, which is a good way to study, honestly. But I just want to go over the, just give me 1 second, the names. In page 85, he has the names of several of the spirits that most people don't know about. These are spirits that a lot of people will not understand if they're not really truly advancing within their studies, within the way that they need to learn and study some of these things, especially in the dream, the dreams and the dream part of our days, where we go to learn different things, right? So yeah, he talks about Damballah. He talks about we spend a lot of time talking about Damballah because Damballah is the beginning of a lot of the other symbols come from what he talked about Damballah and what it means, the different things like the egg, the stars, and all of that. Then he talks about Aida Voodo, and just to make sure, Damballah Voodo, God the Father, verbal syncopation of Dange Alada Voodo, a synthesis of the serpent, revered in the temple of the snakes Wida in Dahomey, represents the rainbow with Aida Voodo, who is his wife. Damballah personized the primary foundation of the African temple in the same way as Wida is traditionally identified with Judah. Because Damballah is the Messiah or the king of the kingdom of Judah, one of his numerous names is Rohuda, King Judah. One of the meaning of the 3 roots of the name is respectively Sun, Moon, Mercury. The true color of Damballah is white. His ritual fabric is the white linen, in which traditionally the Hoisan must be dressed ceremonially. The magic sphere of Damballah then is the white cloth, which is certain esoteric reasons is suspended above him while he possesses a Hoisan, a Hugan, or Mambo. Damballah is the light bearer of the Voodo Amphor. His major attribute is the basin of ritual water in which he dips when he appears. Damballah is the great fish of the Voodo called a fish Nago, the first of the astronomers and the first of the astrologers. He has the perfect knowledge of heaven in most learned of the Lua, whose the African tradition calls Nago. His wife is all of the Aida Voodos and all the Ursulis as well. In synthesis, Damballah personized simultaneously fire and water. Another of his main attributes is the amphor, the egg placed on the stem of the sea or the flower. The egg is the food symbol of Damballah. And then Aida Voodo, since we started with that. I don't know, I'm having a deja vu moment right now. Oh, that was weird. I don't know if we talked about this before. Did we do this before? Aida Weidon, wife of Damballah Weidon, personalizes the rainbow, and it is principle of all the waters, especially those of the holiest creatures called waters from above. Since this mystery is the wife of Damballah Weidon, who is the greatest astronomer, the waters from above, that he personifies, signify also that the true waters of atmosphere as well as the celestial constellation, those, i.e. the Weidon is taken by the great African initiates for the Milky Way, the moon, Venus, constellation of Libra, the sheep, the bee bear, and the Draco. Her name is Dahomey, is rather Aido Weidon, and moreover she is of male sex. Whereas Damballah is the biggest of all the fish, Aida is the biggest female fish, where the significance of the formula Aida, maîtresse c'est la baleine, mistress the whale, Aida, maîtresse c'est la baleine, like ballena, baleine, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, so basically the whale. So she signifies the formula of the whale. As a personification of water, this fish represents the rain, the depth of the sea, the fountain head, attribution and domicile of Damballah, guarded by either one or two snakes, which are Damballah and Aida, and the two fishes. Her color is blue, but rather azure blue, and her duplicity, which may be malignant, is Tisala Wedo. Aida is the traditional color bearer of the Amphor. Aida Wedo is the mother of Lekba, the Voodo Christ. Aida is the superior form of the Ursulis, Venus of the night. She's identified with Vesper. It is the Holy Spirit of the universal Kabbalah, God the Mother. And then he talks about Lekba, El Suli, Grambois, Ogu, the drums, Agasu, Saka, Gede, Milokan, Ibo, Sobe, Bade, Agüe, La Sirene, Simbi, de Marasas, Papaloko, Masa, Dani, Beleku, Maman Brigitte, Aisan, Lingesu, Boswa, Congo, Wagon, Sin, Agau, Aminet, Kaplau, Sandor, Grande Alabu, Aluba, that's a weird name for me, Grande Boswan, Atungidi, Mandonge Masai, Grande Simbilubo, Sinlibo, Marinette Boiseche. And then he goes into the, if you want me to explain the different spirits here, let me know and I'll do a video on that. But then he goes into the bebes and then that's it. So a lot of information at the beginning, about 50 pages that are very powerful, but it will also help you understand the sigils, the diagrams better. So if you are interested, you should definitely grab a copy of this book because it's truly amazing. All right, guys, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you.